Hello everyone, this is video 2 for the Greater Oceania, specifically culture and political legal environment. This is focused on Australia, New Zealand, and Indonesia. So we're going to be starting first with Australia. Looking at Australia's customs and traditions, they speak mainly English, though a small percentage of others. Their religion is nearly 50% Christian, with 40% are secular or identifying with no affiliation. Social norms are similar to the United States. They're casual, respect for diversity. The term the Aussie spirit strives for fairness, and they prioritize quality over quantity. The business practices are also going to be similar to the United States. They're direct, they negotiate, they strive for a work-life balance, and they focus on sustainability. In their education ranking, they're at 10th globally, 18th in math, 12th in reading, and 10th in science. And for education, higher education, they have 42 universities and 50.8% held a bachelor's in 2022. There was a drop in 2023, but that's primarily to the cost of living increases. Looking at their political environment, they are stable. They have a developed infrastructure as well as legal framework, good education and healthcare. They scored a 74.8 on the economic freedom score. They have an economic climate, a federal parliament as well as a commonwealth realm. And they do have an inherited monarchy who serves as a figurehead as well as a relatively low corruption. Looking at their regulations and laws, they scored moderately high on ease of doing business scales, 81.2 out of 100. They scored even higher for starting businesses and for getting credit. Regarding treaty laws, they are a part of the Australia and New Zealand Free Trade Area. They have free trade agreements with the United States and China, as well as being a member of the Pacific Agreement on Closer Economic Relations. Some laws applicable specifically to U.S. firms are going to be the Foreign Investment Review Board, the Australian Consumer Law, and the Environmental Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act. And the distribution channels are kind of similar to the US. They have importers, distributors, wholesalers, etc. And they use primarily DHL, FedEx, and UPS. Talking about their risk analysis, they scored very low in both risk of country and risk of business climate. The strong political and economic environment is to attribute to the risk of country, and the risk of business climate. Their corporate information is easily available. They do have an efficient debt collection and smooth intercompany transactions. Next, we're going to be moving on to New Zealand. So, a bit about New Zealand's customs and traditions. Again, mainly English. There is a small percentage of others, including French and Northern Chinese. 51.5% have no religion, while 32.3% identify as Christian. Social norms, again, are going to be similar to the United States, with a high priority on individualism, direct communication, work-life balance, as well as respect for environment. And the business practices are also going to be similar to the United States. Regulatory environment, going to be market-driven economies, good legal systems, as well as technology adoption. Some education rankings, they scored 3rd globally. Math is 23rd, reading is 10th, and science is 12th. In higher education, they have 8 major universities, and 37% of New Zealanders have a bachelor's degree in 2023. You can see the map right there on the right that corresponds with that. So looking at New Zealand's political environment, they have a stable democracy, low corruption, strong rule of law. They scored 78.9 in the economic freedom score. In the context of their economic climate, they are trade dependent mixed. Some key sectors are agricultural, tourism, services. They value equality, community, and Maori rights, and there's a focus on work-life balance, as well as having more collective values versus individualistic, with a favorable view of government intervention, as well as a higher priority on environmental sustainability. Some regulations and laws, they rated moderately high on doing business scales, 86.8 out of 100, but 100 out of 100 on getting credit. They don't have a free trade agreement with the United States, but they do have an FTA with China. They're also members of the ASEAN, as well as having a digital economy partnership agreement with Chile and Singapore. Some laws apply to the U.S. firms, obviously going to be taxation, employment laws, privacy laws, and consumer protection. and their distribution channels are going to be similar to the United States: DHL, FedEx, and UPS, as well as operating under importers, distributors, franchising, joint ventures, and subsidiaries. Looking at their overall risk analysis, they are very low for risk of country as well as risk of business climate. You can see that they do have a strong political and economic environment, and in the context of business culture climate, it is good to have corporate information readily available. Like Australia, they have an efficient debt collection as well as smooth intercompany transactions. Lastly, we're going to be speaking about Indonesia. So looking at Indonesia's customs and traditions, they 97% speak Indonesian, but there's different dialects. Javanese is the most common at 31.2. In the context of religions, over 80% identify as Islam, followed by Christianity at just under 8%. Some social norms are honor and respect for the individual, loyalty and respect to family friends, as well as a simplistic lifestyle. They value togetherness over individualism, and some business practices are comparable to social and cultural norms, as well as striving for social harmony in both culture and businesses. And there's a low individualistic organization structure, as well as a high centralization in decision making. Their education and expectations, they're ranked 107th globally. You can see there on the map. The attainment of bachelor's degrees or equivalent was under 10% of Indonesian adults aged 25 plus. And Australia and United States are two of the most popular educational destinations of Indonesian students abroad. Looking at their political environment, they are moderately stable. They have a large young population, but they do have steady economic and structural growth, as well as a large domestic demand and growing middle class. Some investments in recent infrastructure are going to be their airports, their roads, specifically toll roads, water and power plants, as well as ports. Scored a 63.5 in the economic freedom score, which is a bit low compared to the previous two we saw. Economic climate, they have Democratic Republic. They're the world's third largest democracy and the world's 10th largest economy by purchasing power. And executive and legislative, they do have a president, and they have a bicameral People's Consultative Assembly, as well as an independent judicial system. As far as Indonesia's regulations of laws, their ease of business is ranked somewhat high, 73rd out of 190 countries. Some notable treaty laws are they are also a part of the ASEAN, the Indonesian-Australia Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, United States and Indonesia Bilateral Trade Agreement, as well as the European Free Trade Association. Some laws applicable to U.S. firms are going to be the Indonesian Investment Authority, the Omnibus Law on Job Creation, as well as the Presidential Regulation number 10. Distribution channels are going to be similar to the United States as well, dealing primarily with distributors and agents. There's an attractive franchising market and consumer products. Lastly, the risk analysis of Indonesia. They are the riskiest of the three we've talked about so far, but they're still considered acceptable. They have a moderate to strong political economic environment, and this really only occurs sometimes depending on the sector of where you plan on doing business. Sometimes there's call for a requirement of extensive management in some areas, which can threaten business. So quickly summarized, Australia is going to be the world's 6th largest country by land. It's known for its diverse cultural and religious backgrounds, and it shares that work-life balance similar to the United States. Education is ranked 10th globally, and one of the best features is a transparent regulatory environment. Having that information readily available is super important for businesses. Power is going to be shared between federal and state governments, numerous free trade agreements, as well as a low risk factor. Quickly summarizing New Zealand, they're a multicultural island in the country of the southwestern Pacific Ocean. English is their primary language, and their religion is a bit diverse. Educational system is going to be ranked 3rd globally. They have a stable political and economic environment characterized by their strong democracy, low corruption, and rule of law. They are considered low risk, and they promote a good work-life balance. Lastly, summarizing Indonesia, they are located in Southeast Asia and Oceania. They primarily speak Javanese, but other regional languages, Islam being their dominant religion, striving for a simplistic lifestyle. They're ranked 107th globally in education. They're a democratic republic and the world's third largest democracy, but that's freedom score of 63.5. They have moderate levels of corruption, and they rank 73rd out of 190 countries in the ease of doing business, but they are part of some notable free trade associations, though some sectors do make this hard.